This is the Georgia Farm Monitor. Since 1966, your source for state and national agribusiness news, and features for farmers and consumers about Georgia's #1 industry, agriculture. The Georgia Farm Monitor is produced by the state's largest general farm organization, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now, here are your hosts, Ray DeLessio and Kenny Bergamy.
Well, hi there. So glad you could join us for a very special edition of the Farm Monitor, and quite honestly, maybe one of the most difficult episodes that Kenny and I have ever been a part of.
Yeah, Ray, the majority of this show dealing with the aftermath of Hurricane Michael, and it goes without saying, some of the pictures you will see are just heart-wrenching. Straight ahead, the Monitor was on the ground and in the air with Vice President Mike Pence as he toured some of the heavily damaged areas. John Holcomb has the full report. Also on the show, the emotional pleas from those affected by the storm and how they're hoping to rebuild and move forward.
And then later, the Monitor sits down with American Farm Bureau President Zippy Duvall. His thoughts after seeing some of the damaged areas and what he said about a disaster package to help those in need. These stories and so much more starting right now on the Farm Monitor. The devastation caused by Hurricane Michael here in Georgia is beyond belief, so much so that you really have to see it in person to believe it. That's exactly what our nation's second in command did recently as Vice President Pence spent an entire day visiting the areas affected the most. Our John Holcomb was one of only a handful of media members invited to document the journey.
Less than 24 hours after President Trump touched down in Georgia, our nation's vice president decided to come toward the state's damage from Hurricane Michael as well. As soon as Air Force 2 touched down, Pence boarded Marine 2 and the tour was underway. The vice president's first stop was in Moultrie at the Sun Belt Ag Expo, where he spoke to farmers that were there.
Thank you so much for letting Karen and I stop into this important event today. It's such an important time in the life of the state of Georgia and the life of this region. And as the president said yesterday when he visited in the Macon area and he visited the Gulf Coast, the Panhandle of Florida, let me say to all the farmers gathered here today in the wake of Hurricane Michael, we are with you, and we will stay with you until we rebuild and recover better than ever before.
From there, it was time to see some of the damage. The first stop was at Flint River Mills in Bainbridge, where the vice president met up with state-level leaders like Governor Nathan Deal and Commissioner of Agriculture Gary Black. He also got to meet the owner of the facility, as well as the employees and their families.
Our fondest hope is that the families here and those affected directly by Hurricane Michael know that from President Trump on down, our administration, our partners in the Congress in both parties, and our partners at the state and local level, we're going to work until we bring Bainbridge, Southwest Georgia, and the whole region all the way back.
The next stop from there was Pecan Ridge Plantation, where Pence was greeted by pecan growers in the area, as well as the owners of the orchard. They spoke to us about their losses.
I mean, we've lost this farm, basically. I mean, because it's not, we had insurance for the crop this year, but it's the replant issue. And the next year, the farmer in me makes me want to farm this, but there's no way I can make it. Next year's the year I'll lose it because we're not like the cotton guy. Nothing against them. They get to replant a seed next year. I don't.
It's that reason this is being called a generational loss storm. Pence spoke to that and how they are going to work to make sure Congress understands that when discussing aid.
We also understand that this represents generational loss to see these 4-year-old pecan trees down right about the time that they were getting close to producing, taking 10 years to get all the way back. And I just want to assure you that we get it. We need to do more. Hurricane Michael was a generational storm. We are going to address it that way, working with the leaders in Congress and in the city and on the farm. We're going to bring this region all the way back.
Reporting in Albany for the Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
John touched on it briefly, the fact that Bainbridge was one of the areas heavily affected by the storm. Bainbridge, of course, the hometown of Georgia Farm Bureau President Gerald Long, who also sustained some damage to his U-pick operation, but like most farmers, he has vowed to push forward. President Long releasing a statement saying in part, quote, "The damage Georgia has experienced will leave a lasting effect on our state." As we continue to assess damage, Georgia Farm Bureau is on the ground to help begin the recovery and rebuilding process for the Georgians impacted by this tragedy. While debris can be cleared away and structure rebuilt, we must continue to pray for the farmers that have lost entire crops, poultry houses, farm equipment, and livestock.
Year in and year out, Georgia is the nation's top producer of pecans, and it was expected to be more of the same this year, with a harvest predicted to exceed 110 million pounds. Not anymore. Now growers are scrambling to salvage some of their crop while also cleaning up their land.
What we're looking at is probably a loss of about half of the pecan crop this year. We're estimating about $100 million loss in just the crop itself for this year. If you add the value of the lost trees, the value of the lost future production there, that comes out to about a $560 million loss to the pecan industry in Georgia.
Anytime in the late summer, early fall is bad for a hurricane, because if it would have been a couple weeks earlier, we would have had green nuts, which would have been heavy and tore the trees up. The only good thing about it is potentially is that the nuts were about ready to harvest, and the wind blew the nuts out of the trees, and so we don't have a lot of green shucks on the ground. The nuts that are there are harvestable. We see with this storm, as opposed to Irma, that we have with this one much larger trees down. With Irma, we saw trees in, say, the 10 to 25 or so year old range were the main ones to blow over. With this storm, it seems like the large old Stewart Sly trees in the Albany area, desirable, were some of the main ones to blow over. The only trees that we had that did not get adversely affected were trees that were 1 year old. Those trees look like they all made it, so anything that's been planted in the last 1 or 2 years probably is okay, but other than that, everything else is pretty much devastated. We've lost probably 25 to 30% of the trees. I'd say 100% of the nuts are on the ground, and of the nuts that are on the ground, we might salvage 20% of those on the ground. So our poundage is going to be really affected this year. Even for what we can salvage, we're going to still lose a lot.
We're estimating that we've lost about 27,000 acres of pecan trees. That translates into about 740,000 trees, and that's about a 17% reduction in our acreage in the state. So of course there's going to be a hit there. Certainly for next year, the stress that the storm caused on that tree is going to significantly affect it for next year. I wouldn't expect much of a crop next year.
You know, for the next 5 years, our production is going to be down at least. We're going to come in here, clean the groves up, hopefully plant some fast-producing, fast-growing varieties, but we're still going to have a 3 to 5 year downturn in production. The priority is trying to harvest the nuts, and so the first thing that we really got to get to is we got to get the limbs and the trees up out of the way so we can get to the nuts and harvest them as quickly as possible. We got rain a couple nights ago here, and that coupled with warm temperatures is going to lead to nut rot pretty quickly. We're probably cleaning up 10 to 15 acres a day, and so we've got about 2,000 acres, so you do the math, it's going to take a while.
Another Georgia commodity that suffered a huge blow is cotton. Georgia, of course, the nation's second largest producer of cotton, contributing almost $1 billion to the state. Sadly, that number will be exponentially lower, as Georgia producers had only harvested about 15% of the crop when the storm hit. Officials have estimated anywhere from $300 to $800 million worth lost during the storm. We spoke with one farmer in Camilla about the damage on his farm.
This year, we've got 1,600 acres of cotton. Of that, we were able to harvest about 100 acres before the storm hit. Of what's left of the 1,500 acres, we've got fields like this one here that are pretty much zeroed out. We'll be lucky to harvest anything at all. And in some ways, it'll be unfortunate if we do have to harvest. It'll actually cost us money just to get in the fields and pick it. On the better side, we've got some cotton that we planted late that we may be able to get a 50% crop out of.
If you would like to help those in Southwest Georgia affected by Hurricane Michael, Georgia Farm Bureau is accepting donations to aid in the relief efforts. You can find information on how to donate by visiting gfb.org. Up next, we're going to break away from the storm coverage for just a bit and talk about something positive. Actually, they're quite delicious. Meals from the field using recipes with Georgia pecans.
Whether you say pecans, pecans, pecan, we don't care. As long as you care about pecans, that's all we care about. Enough of caring.
Georgia pecans.
Georgia pecans at that. Yeah, as long as you're buying Georgia pecans, we don't care. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Farm Monitor and to another edition of Meals from the Field. As always, I am joined by my partner in crime, Marcia Crowley. Good to see you again, Marcia. And yes, like I said, we are doing pecans today. It is pecan season, end of October here. Thanksgiving will be slowly approaching, and I'm sure everybody is starting to get ready for Thanksgiving meals and planning Thanksgiving meals, and you have the perfect meals today.
Hopefully they'll use some of these.
My mom does. My mom always calls me and says, I used Marcia's recipe this week. It was absolutely scrumptious, so there you go, Mom. Shout out.
Well, this first one is a turkey rice pilaf. You can use leftover turkey or chicken, of course. So I've already sauteed in this pan a cup of celery, a half a cup of green onion. We're going to add to that a prepared rice, which is it's a 6-ounce package of wild rice with the seasoning packet, and you prepare it according to package directions. I'm just going to add, and you can do this ahead of time and reheat it. And you can serve it hot or at room temperature. Let me move some of my bowls. We're going to add to that 2 cups of cooked turkey or chicken.
Okay. Cubed,
bite size, or you can do chicken fingers, whatever you want.
Can you do it shredded?
You could do it shredded.
Okay.
And if you're really lazy, you could use a rotisserie chicken.
That's me.
That's me. And then a cup of Georgia pecans, and you're going to just heat all this up basically, and you can serve it hot or at room temperature. And it was a hit, I'm telling you. The pecans really add some flavor to it. It really, there's enough spices in the rice that you really don't need anything other than salt and pepper if you want to do that.
And no need to like roast the pecans in the oven beforehand.
Because they're going to saute them, and you can roast them if you want to.
All right.
All right. Now we're going from healthy
to
the realistic stuff here. This is a chocolate pecan pie, and that is light Karo syrup, butter, vanilla, and sugar.
Yeah.
And 3 eggs.
That's not healthy.
But it's worth it. All right, we're going to add to that a cup and a half of whole Georgia pecans.
All right.
A cup of chocolate chip morsels. And you basically just stir that up and put it in your pre-made pie shell. And you know mine's store-bought. I don't do pie shells. You bake this at 325 for about 55 minutes.
Okay.
But you need to watch it, because if the crust starts getting too brown, you're going to need to foil it.
All right.
Okay? And that, you're just going to pour it in your pie shell. And this is to die for, I'm telling you. I think you'll approve.
Hey, Mom, can I lick the bowl when you're done?
Sure.
Awesome.
You may lick the bowl, even though it's got raw eggs in it, but I don't think that'll hurt you.
And they call this a job for me.
I know, it's just fun. It's just, I get to come up with new things, and we get to have a lunch together.
Exactly.
There you go. But Georgia pecans are in season. Hopefully they didn't get too hurt by the weather.
Yeah, the weather. And of course, let's show you the finished product there. There you see everything absolutely scrumptious. And of course, you can make all these products yourself. It's very easy. Just log on to farm-monitor.com. Every single month, Marcia sends us those recipes so we can get them out there to you. And again, as I've told you before, the responses have come in. My mom, huge fan of yours.
Good. I'm so glad.
She has a website on speed dial. Other people have told me how much they enjoy the recipe segment and
That's
enjoy
the whole point.
So I think we're going to keep you.
Oh, good.
I think we're going to
Thank
keep
you.
And with that, I think I'm going to see you again next month.
Okay. See you next month. See you, Ray.
Good to see you again, Marcia. And good to see you. We will see you next month.
Ray, Marcia, thank you so much. Now back to the aftermath of Hurricane Michael. While the total impact won't be known for some time, we do know this. The amount of storm damage the timber industry suffered here in Georgia is massive. According to the Georgia Forestry Commission, roughly 2.3 million acres of forested lands valued at $374 million was affected by the storm, most of it belonging to small or private landowners. Scott Griffin, GFC's forest management chief, said the hardest areas hit were Seminole, Miller, and Decatur counties.
The path ran from there northeast up to about Cordell. Wilcox County was kind of the leading edge of where we were picking up timber damage. In that area of damage, it's about 50% pine and about 40% hardwood, and then a 10% mix of pine hardwood. So yeah, we saw a lot of damage in both hardwood and pine. We flew the area the day after the hurricane came through, and we noticed it was interesting to see how the winds were the highest in that Seminole, Decatur County area. We had a lot of stem breakage. And then as it progressed, there was less stem breakage and more wind throw where the winds were down into that 75 mile per hour range. So yeah, resources available to landowners. They can go to gatrees.org, and on the front page we will have a spotlight item that will be a link to all kind of resources that will help them. It's called Storm Damage Resources, and they can click on that, and that link will take them to, there'll be documents there that'll help them, for example, selling storm damaged timber, because that is a little bit of a different process than selling timber during normal times. There will be links to resources there, such as registered consulting foresters, who are private foresters that can actually assist them with the timber sale. So that's something that we recommend, is that they use a registered consulting forester to help them with the timber sale. So that'll be everything kind of in one place. There'll be a link to the disaster relief type programs, such as the Emergency Forest Restoration Program, which is a cost share program that can help with the restoration of these forests that were damaged or destroyed due to the hurricane.
When we come back, a conversation with American Farm Bureau President Zippy Duvall, his words of comfort to those affected by the recent superstorms.
One step at a time is all you can do. The cleanup process starts, then you just start from there, starting all over again.
Every way I cut it, on a minimum, I've lost $500,000 on 1,200 acres of cotton.
Farmers in South Georgia have been struggling for the last 6 years. There's no question that our industry and our area is about to change. The way I see it is, unless something changes, most of the farmers will go out of business in our area.
Well, you really feel for those people that have been affected. And these are just a fraction of the stories we've heard out in the field, but we're not the only ones. American Farm Bureau President Zippy Duvall is also listening to the storm victims.
Yeah, Kenny, President Duvall toured some of the damaged areas just days after Michael hit. He also made an appearance at Sunbelt Expo, where I was able to sit down with him and discuss everything from the after effects of Michael to the upcoming elections.
So much going on right now on this roller coaster ride we call American agriculture. Farm bill, ongoing process, Chinese tariffs, then in a time span of just weeks, 2 massive hurricanes that hit both North Carolina and Georgia, causing billions of dollars in losses. Any words of encouragement you can give the farmers right now?
Yeah, you know, this is not our first rodeo as farmers. And we know how to get through these things. You don't want to make too light of it, because every disaster like we've seen in the last 2 weeks between the two storms are always bad. You know, if it affects you, it's home and it's tough. But agriculture always seems to come out the other side, you know, and so we're hoping for the best, and all the people that's been affected is in our prayers. And I know that Commissioner Black, and I know that the governor and Secretary Perdue, and we're doing everything we can do to try to help them recover what they got, and we're looking forward to maybe having some kind of package that'll help, a disaster package that might help some of our farmers. And as American Farm Bureau, that's going to be our voice. Let's tell the story. Let's tell these guys' story and tell them about how bad they've been hurt. Then let's go out and see what we can find to help out these people with. And we're going to be right there step in step with the Secretary trying to get that done.
Yeah, and staying on the political front, I guess, while we're there, midterm elections right around the corner, November 6th to be exact. Why is it more important than ever for rural voters to head out to the polls?
You know, we're Americans, and one of the great privileges we have as Americans is to be able to have our voice heard in the ballot box. And for any American to live here and not exercise that right, it's just a waste. And it is our opportunity to go to the poll and tell through our vote what kind of leadership we want leading this country, in our state, and our communities. And each level is just as important as the others. And our farmers need sound policy. And in each level of government, there's policy that's developed that affects their life each and every day. And if they don't go vote, they're not asking, they're not putting, their voice is not being heard to be able to put the right people in the right place that's going to vote their conscience. Because as they vote for them, they're going to vote for the man that they think the same way they do. So it's important for us to go to the poll. It's important for us to get the right people in there so that we can have sound policy that helps rural America, that helps rural communities, that helps farm families, and helps our individual families, and sets agriculture on the road to be prosperous in the future for our children and grandchildren.
Yeah, and my final question for you, come January, American Farm Bureau will celebrate 100 years in the great city of New Orleans. I'm sure a lot of the Farm Bureau members are saying, New Orleans, I don't know, kind of a crazy place. How important is it for Farm Bureau members to be in New Orleans and to celebrate this occasion?
Just think, 100 years of providing a united voice for the American farmer and rancher. You know, not only is this organization still focused on the same mission that we started with, and that's being their voice, we're still doing that 100 years later. A lot of organizations don't even have the opportunity to celebrate 100 years. The Farm Bureau is special. It's special because it really tends to, it does focus on its grassroots. And a lot of people, a lot of organizations lose their way. We haven't lost our way. We need for people to think about this. New Orleans is a great place to go, great convention place, great food. You don't have to go to Bourbon Street to enjoy New Orleans. And we go to Farm Bureau Convention. We go to Farm Bureau Convention fields on your farm. Yeah. Because it's about the people and the food and the fellowship and the business that we do as far as our policy. And the other thing is, people need to understand there's so many educational programs there to talk about the issues that they're facing, to help them get through some struggles that they're having on their farm, go back home and make better decisions by hearing those, and to be able to influence the policy that's going to be voted there. Because that policy is why our organization is respected in Washington, because every congressman and senator, every president of the United States understands that our policy book is developed by a farmer, not by Zippy Duvall or any leader in Farm Bureau. It's a work together to find one voice, and that's why we're powerful. That's why we're the big elephant in the room.
Right. Well, for the record, I support Farm Bureau, and I'm a huge fan of New Orleans, so I will see you there in January.
Yeah, everybody come to New Orleans. Let's celebrate 100 years.
All right, Mr. Duvall, thanks.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Unfortunately, we are out of time.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you right here next week on the Farm Monitor.
Have a great week.